You've always been the family joke, my dad laughed after I funded every holiday for years. Then stay out of my life, I snapped after buying a mansion without telling them and refusing to let them in. Every year on the holidays, like always, I would prepare myself for the usual remarks. The insults came with fake smiles and raised glasses. You always embarrass us, my dad would laugh, nudging my brother like I was just a private joke between them. My mom never stopped him. She'd just say, just try not to say anything strange this time. Okay. And every time, I'd fake a smile, nod, and go get chairs from the garage or help set the table, like I was just some extra in my own story. I'm Daniel, 34. For most of my adult years, I acted just how they wanted, the quiet, weird one. I wasn't like my brother Ryan, who got promoted at work, or my sister Lauren, who wouldn't stop talking about her baby. I was the one who wasted his 20s jumping from one gig to another, doing freelance, trying new jobs, running small side businesses that no one understood. But eventually, it worked out. I never made a big deal of what I was doing. When I was making apps for small shops, they treated it like a silly hobby. When I started giving advice to tech firms, they rolled their eyes and asked when I'd finally get a real job. Even when I launched a software business that grew fast during COVID, they laughed when I said I needed to hire someone. Hire? You mean like a buddy to fix your website? Ryan joked over Thanksgiving dinner while Dad sliced turkey like he was on a TV show. So, I gave up explaining my job. It wasn't worth it. No matter what I did, I was always the one they mocked. The family's let down. The one they were ashamed of. The final moment wasn't even big. It was Lauren's birthday last year, her 37th. Mom booked a vineyard for it. There were fancy snacks, a live guitarist, and a slideshow of Lauren's greatest hits, baby pictures, her graduation, even a photo of her showing off her first tax return. During the speeches, Ryan lifted his glass and said, "Here's to Lauren. Proof that being responsible works." Everyone laughed. Aunt Linda clapped. Then Mom added, "And cheers to Daniel for always keeping us wondering." More laughter. My hands shook as I held my wine. That night, I stayed to help clean up, not because they deserved it, but because the catering team looked tired. As I was putting chairs back into the van, Ryan walked by, smirking. "Still the helper, huh?" he whispered, loud enough for me to hear, but quiet enough to pretend he didn't mean it. I didn't reply. I finished the job and drove home quietly. But that quiet didn't mean I gave up. It meant I was making a plan. I had been saving in silence for years. Tech work can be unstable, but I'd been smart, cutting costs when needed, investing well, and setting things up to run on their own. That spring, I bought a beautiful, modern house in a private gated area on a hill. It had huge windows, smart technology, and a backyard that made real estate agents stop and stare. It was my dream home. My family didn't know, not because I hid it, but because not one of them ever bothered to ask. I signed the papers, moved in, and for the first time, I did something for me. I threw a celebration, a housewarming party like it was a big event. I sent invites to close friends, kind old clients, and supportive coworkers. I didn't invite a single family member. When someone tried to schedule a brunch that weekend, I just said I was busy. I made the party invite private on Facebook, but not hidden. That was on purpose. The night of the party was amazing. The string lights sparkled above the patio. The food smelled delicious. Laughter filled every room of my home. People who saw me as someone important, not just background noise. We had music, short speeches, and even a bit of karaoke by the fire. I took photos with everyone, smiled next to the champagne tower, and even gave a short thank you speech because my old mentor wouldn't let me skip it. My friend Jessica shared a picture of me on a balcony, my arms raised, city lights behind me, with the caption, "From outcast to empire builder. So proud of you, Daniel." That one post is what caused all the drama. The next morning, I woke up to tons of missed calls, 7 from Mom, 3 from Ryan, 1 from Lauren, and 1 from an unknown number. It was Aunt Linda. My Facebook was blowing up even though I barely use it. I'd been tagged in pictures, stories, and a video of me cutting the ribbon in front of my house with big scissors. I hadn't posted anything myself, but I also didn't hide it. The comments were amazing. "Daniel, your house is gorgeous. When did this happen? You earned this. Congratulations. I'm tearing up. So happy for you." But hidden among the praise were ones like, "Why weren't we invited?" from my cousin Megan. Lauren wrote, "Your family should have been there. This really hurts." And Mom, she left a bitter one, "Some people forget who raised them." Even Ryan added, "So the fake job worked after all? You could have told us." I didn't reply. Not to any of it, not the comments, not the voicemails, not the long message from Mom saying I had embarrassed the family and made them look like outsiders. That word, embarrassed, stuck with me. I stared at it for a while, then deleted the message. But things didn't stop there. 2 days later, Ryan came to my gate, pressing the buzzer like we were still close. I didn't open it right away. I stood in the kitchen holding my coffee, watching him on the screen. He looked annoyed and impatient, wearing his office clothes, button-up shirt, expensive watch, and that same face he always had before lecturing me. He buzzed again. "Daniel," he said into the speaker, his voice crackling, "I'm not here to argue. Just open the gate." I didn't respond. I waited. On the third buzz, he pulled out his phone. Sure enough, a second later, my phone lit up. "Daniel, open the gate. I'm staying until we talk." I waited 1 more minute, took a breath, and pressed the button. He drove up slowly, looking around like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He parked in the clean driveway on the left, got out of the car, and walked toward the door without saying a thing. I opened it before he could knock. He stood there with his arms crossed. "So, this is real," he said. I leaned on the door frame. "Yeah. Why didn't you tell us?" he asked. I gave a small laugh. "When's the last time you even asked me anything about my life, Ryan?" He rolled his eyes. "Come on, we're family. You called my business a joke. You treated me like I was just the guy who helps out. Every single holiday, you made it clear I was the loser in the family." He raised his hand. "That's not fair." "It is fair," I said more firmly. "You all did it. You thought the jokes were harmless, but they weren't. Year after year, it wore me down until I just stopped sharing anything." For a second, he actually looked unsure, like he didn't know what to say. He glanced past me into the house. "This place is amazing," he mumbled. "Must have cost a lot." I didn't reply. He was trying to guess how well I'd done without them. "I'm not here to argue," he said again. "But Mom's really upset. So is Lauren. You embarrassed them." I almost laughed. Embarrassed them? They've been calling me the embarrassment for 10 years. But now that I do something big and don't include them, I'm the bad guy. Ryan didn't say anything. He looked uneasy, shifting on the porch. "She cried, you know, Mom, when she saw the pictures," he said. "She also cried when I quit grad school," I replied. "Said I'd never be anything. Maybe she just doesn't like surprises." He stared at the ground, then looked back up. "Look, I'm not saying we were perfect. You were mean, Ryan. All of you. And none of you even realized it." There was nothing but quiet. Then he cleared his throat and said, "So what now? You're just cutting us off and acting like we don't matter anymore?" I looked right at him, the same brother who used to shove me out of group photos, the one who once said during Christmas dinner that I was lucky just to be invited. Now he was standing outside my house, waiting for me to let him in. "I'm not pretending anything," I replied in a calm voice. "I'm just deciding who gets to stay in my world." His face tightened. "So, this is how you get back at us." "This isn't revenge," I said quietly. "This is peace." There was another pause before he turned around and started walking away. But just before reaching his car, he stopped and looked back. "You're still angry," he said. "Even a fancy house can't fix that." I didn't move. "And you're still full of yourself. Throwing parties won't change that either." Then he drove off. Later that day, I got a text from my cousin Megan. It was a screenshot from a group chat I wasn't part of. My mom had written, "I don't know why he's acting like this. We raised him, didn't we? Maybe he just enjoys making us look bad." Lauren had replied, "He's always been strange." Then Ryan added, "Let him enjoy his moment. It won't last." I read that last line more than once, "It won't last." That's when I knew they still didn't believe any of this was real. To them, what I had built wasn't success. It was just a lucky break. They couldn't admit I had done well because that would mean they had judged me unfairly all along. So I made up my mind. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't fight back. I'd just keep moving forward, step by step, and make sure they saw it all. The next day, I agreed to be a guest on a big tech podcast. That same week, I joined a professional agency to help turn my consulting work into a full business. I updated my LinkedIn profile and posted a few pictures from the party. Nothing flashy, just enough to show I was doing well. I didn't care if they liked it or not. I just wanted them to understand they were no longer the center of my life. Then everything shifted. 3 days later, I got something from my mom. It wasn't a voicemail or a comment. It was a letter sent by a delivery person. Inside the envelope were 5 full pages and a message. The envelope itself was thick and cream-colored, like something you'd use for a wedding or a court notice. I almost didn't open it. A part of me wanted to shove it in a drawer and leave it there, the way I had done with so many things I didn't have the energy to deal with before. But my curiosity got the better of me. Inside were 5 pages written by hand, on lined paper, the kind my mom always kept around. Her handwriting hadn't changed since I was a kid, neat loops, very organized, and heavy underlines beneath any word she thought mattered. The first page had no greeting. It started with, "I don't even know where to start." I leaned back in my chair, put my phone on silent, and let my coffee go cold. She wrote about feeling hurt, confused, and surprised that I had moved into a beautiful house without saying anything to the family. She said she saw the pictures on Facebook and the kind comments from strangers acting like they were the ones who helped me succeed. She said it felt like I had erased her. By the second page, her tone began to shift. "You always liked to be dramatic, Daniel. Even when you were little, remember how you used to lock yourself in your room if someone teased you? Even if it was only meant as a joke. We're family. Families make fun of each other sometimes. It's how we keep one another humble." My chest got tight. This wasn't her saying sorry. This was her changing the story. She was trying to turn all those harsh moments into harmless jokes. She was calling the years of cold treatment tough love. She was turning pain into pretend playful. Every sentence had the same hidden message: "You're the problem, Daniel. You're just too sensitive." The third page was filled with excuses. How Ryan didn't really mean it when he said I'd fail. How Lauren had always admired how I did things on my own. How Dad wasn't mean, just stuck in the past and didn't understand newer jobs. She made sure to underline the word old-fashioned. By the fourth page, she started asking for things. "Let's move past all this. Why not have another get-together? We could make it a full family event this time. Everyone's open to it if you are." Then came the real reason for the letter. "Your cousin Megan mentioned something about your business doing well. That's amazing. Maybe we could all meet sometime and talk about how we can support one another money-wise or in general. You've always been smart with finances, and there are a few things we've been struggling with that you might be able to help us figure out." That's where I stopped. The rest of the letter sat in my lap, heavy, but I didn't bother reading the rest. I already knew how it would end, probably something like, "We miss you. You're still one of us." And maybe even "Please get back to us soon." I got up and walked over to the window. The lights from the party were still hanging outside, gently swinging in the wind. The champagne glasses were gone, but the feeling remained, memories of laughter, of people cheering for me, not just putting up with me. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about healing old wounds. It wasn't about love. It was about power. For once in their lives, they didn't control how I showed up. I wasn't Daniel the helper anymore, or Daniel the odd one out, or Daniel the shameful one. I was Daniel, the one who made it on his own, and they couldn't stand that. I sat back down and looked at the envelope again. There was still one more page. I forced myself to read it. "We'd love to come see the house. Maybe bring a bottle of wine, take a few photos, show people how proud we are of you. I think your dad would really like that." I felt my jaw tighten. That didn't mean anything to me. It wasn't, "Let's reconnect." It was, "Let's take pictures. Let's show off. Let's look proud now that it benefits us." That night, I didn't respond. Instead, I scanned the letter, saved a digital copy, and then lit a fire in the backyard. I poured myself a drink and watched each page burn slowly, curling into ash. 2 days later, Lauren tagged me in a Facebook post, a family dinner photo, everyone smiling, with a caption that said, "Some people forget where they come from, but we still understand what true love looks like." The comments were wild. Aunt Linda wrote, "Family first always." Ryan commented, "No egos here, just real connection." Mom added, "Amen to that." Then, way down the list, someone I hadn't spoken to since high school left a comment, "Didn't Daniel just have a party last week? Didn't see any of you there." That comment vanished within minutes. I didn't reply. I didn't repost. I just watched because I knew something was coming, a very clear, very public moment. And I was going to make sure they noticed. I didn't reply to Lauren's post. I didn't text anyone, not Lauren, not Ryan, not Mom. I let them keep pretending that nothing had changed, pretending they were still the center of my world, pretending I still revolved around them quietly. But while they were busy with their story, I got to work. About a month earlier, a local magazine had reached out. They highlight rising business owners in the city and wanted to write about me, my tech work, how I help small companies, my background. I had said no at the time. I didn't want the attention, but now I called them back. We scheduled the interview for the next week. I didn't wear anything fancy or plan out a speech. I just spoke honestly about years of freelance work, staying up late, building something from nothing, and being ignored by people who only believed in one version of success. I didn't bring up my family, but their presence was still there, hidden between pauses in my tone, in what I chose not to say. The article came out with the headline, "From Failure to Founder, How One Local Underdog Quietly Built a Seven-Figure Company." It included a picture of me on my balcony, city lights shining behind me. The caption read, "Daniel Carter, 34, says he never fit in and finally stopped trying. I posted the article on my LinkedIn, tagged the magazine, and let it spread. The reaction came fast. Clients reached out. Recruiters started sending messages. Old classmates wrote, "Congrats." Even one of my college teachers commented, "You always had the talent, Daniel. Your final project was way ahead of its time." But the moment that hit the hardest came 3 days later. My dad sent a message. It was short, cold, and exactly what I expected. "Read the article. House looks nice. Would have been nice if we were included. Let me know when we can come visit." I didn't reply. The following day, my mom called 2 times. Then a third. I didn't pick up. Then Lauren sent a text, "Can we talk? Just the 2 of us." That one I replied to. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near the neighborhood I grew up in, somewhere neutral. She was already sitting when I got there, with a latte in front of her. She kept stirring it slowly, like she was waiting for some kind of courage to appear in the foam. "Hey," she said softly. I sat down across from her. "Hey." We sat quietly for a while. Then she let out a long breath and said, "I know we were terrible. I won't deny it. We never gave you the respect you deserved, and that was wrong." I gave a small nod and let her keep talking. "I think part of it was jealousy and maybe fear. You didn't follow the usual plan, no grad school, no wedding, no perfect Instagram life. And when it started working out for you anyway, it made people nervous." I didn't expect her to be that honest. "But Daniel," she went on, "shutting us out like that, the party, the photos, the article, it made us look like strangers." I leaned forward. "That's because you are. You stopped being my people a long time ago. I never had the courage to say that. Every time you laughed at me, left me behind, or treated me like some weird little mascot instead of family, you all pushed me further and further away." She looked down and clenched her jaw. "So that's it? We're just cut off now?" "No," I replied. "But things are different now. I'm not begging to be accepted anymore. I'm not giving out free emotional passes to people who question if I matter." Her eyes started to tear up, but she didn't push back. "Okay," she said quietly. "I understand." We spoke for about 20 more minutes. It wasn't warm, but it was honest, and that was more than I'd gotten in years. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask to visit the house. She simply asked, "Can I try to do better?" And I said, "Yes, but we'll see." Then came the backlash. 2 weeks later, my dad tried to set up a family dinner, just the 5 of us at a restaurant. I turned down the invite calmly, firmly. I told them I was too busy with work, which was true. I had just accepted an offer to speak at a tech event in Seattle and was working on my presentation. The next day, Ryan called. He left a voicemail. "You think you're better than us now just because you got lucky? You're still that same weird loser. Money doesn't earn you respect, Daniel. All it buys are fences." He got one thing right. In some ways, I was still the same, still quiet, still thoughtful, still a bit awkward. But I wasn't soft anymore. I didn't need their approval to breathe. That weekend, I held another gathering, not a big event, just a small dinner with close friends, a few mentors, and one guest in particular, Lauren. She arrived with a bottle of wine and a slightly nervous smile. I greeted her, showed her around the house, and watched as her eyes widened with each room she saw. She kept repeating, "You really did all this? You actually made it happen." For the first time, I allowed myself to smile without any bitterness. "Yeah," I said, "I did." Lauren seemed different that evening, more calm, more reflective. I noticed her pausing for a while in my office, looking at the whiteboard full of notes, the awards on the wall, the framed write-ups. While we were putting dishes away later, she said, "You know, I think this is the first time I've ever seen you as the main character." I chuckled quietly. "That's because this is the first time I stopped waiting for permission." By the time she left, she gave me a hug, not the stiff, awkward kind I was used to, but something softer, something genuine. And when she walked out the door, I didn't feel exhausted like I used to. I felt free. Later that night, I checked my email. 3 new messages from Mom, 1 from Dad. I didn't open any of them, but there was also one from a podcast team asking if I'd be a guest on an upcoming episode titled, "The Power of Being Underestimated." I agreed. When the episode came out, I included a line at the end that wasn't part of any script. It was something I'd been holding on to. I said, "Sometimes the strongest revenge is in proving people wrong. It's creating a life so full and complete that their opinions no longer matter, not because you erase them, but because you move beyond them." I didn't mention any names. I didn't have to. They heard it anyway. And for the very first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was something to be ashamed of.